So without further ado, welcome Jenna and Susan.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oops. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Jenna Wachtmann with Ball Brothers Foundation.
And I am Susan Brumley with Ball Brothers Foundation.
Fantastic. So I've been with the foundation for about 11 years now, and Susan for?
Coming up on my third year.
Awesome. So Susan and I, and actually our whole team kind of work together on social media, and we'll share a little bit more with you today about this. The irony of the whole thing, and Diane, who's in the back, knows this, I don't even have social media of my own personally, and so just bear with us today because we have worked really hard, I think, as a team. And Susan brought a lot of experience to our team as well when she joined the foundation a few years ago to create kind of a process, as Brandon talked about, that just builds on itself year after year. So we're excited to share a little bit with you this morning about the social spark. So what we're going to do, and I'll just run you really quickly through the agenda, is we are going to share a little bit about who we are as a foundation. We're going to do a little bit, we're going to do a survey of all of you so that we can kind of understand to kind of get a pulse on what you're currently doing and what your challenges are. We'll talk a little bit about where we started and where we are now. And these are my favorite slides because you get to see the first Facebook post from Ball Brothers Foundation, and they are ridiculous. So prepare yourselves. We're going to talk a little bit about picking your tool. So you're going to hear us talk about a toolbox today. And all of you there's a whole toolbox of social media that you can use, but that doesn't mean you should use it. So just like a regular toolbox that you have at your home, not every tool is the right tool for the job. And so please, you don't use a saw for something that needs a hammer. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about picking one or two tools and not trying to do everything. We're also going to talk a little bit about finding your voice, and that is the personality of your social media channels, because that is what engages. I think from our experience, that's what engages folks, is having a voice that's distinctly and uniquely you. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Susan's going to talk about organizing content. That's one of the kind of the biggest challenges that we have even still internally, and that I know a lot of you probably have as well, is just like, whoa, what do we do with content and how do we organize it and how do we get it from an idea in our head onto social media. And then Susan's going to share some top tips, and we'll do a little survey at the end as well. Are we ready? Yes? Here we go. Okay. Fantastic. So really quickly, our story, Ball Brothers Foundation is a family foundation, almost 100 years next year. Yay! So and this is always, I love to tell people this, like for basically 80 of those years, we quietly did nothing publicly in terms of communications. We were like really quiet and sort of silent. And so this has been a 100-year-long process that has gotten us to the point of being a lot more public about what we do. And there are some reasons and some rationales behind that. But really for the first 80 years, essentially what we did was on our 60th anniversary, we came out with our very first public report about the foundation. And I have a little copy of it. It's really fun. I should have brought one today. It was basically like we used the color green and printed everything else in black and white. And it was like 2 or 3 pages that basically had the history of the foundation and really was not particularly helpful, but at least it was something. And then every year, because we were required to by law at that time, we published an announcement about our 990. And our 990 is basically like a list of the grants that we made. And we published it in the Winchester newspaper of all places. And that was what we did. So I am telling you, whatever you are doing is probably better than what we were doing. So, but slowly, and that was when Judd Fisher came on as our president and CEO, slowly began, and he came from a marketing background, and slowly began to build a case for support about why we would publish more about the work that we do. A lot of that is really grounded in the fact that as a private foundation, we are not, and you'll hear us say this, many times today, we are not the hero of the story. Our grantees are the hero of the story. And so while we are working really hard to try to make Muncie and Delaware County a better place to live by giving grants and providing funding, you all, and many of you are grantees of ours, are the ones that are on the ground doing that work. And the companies that choose to invest in this community are the ones that are doing that work. You guys are the hero of the story. We're just in the background. And so we, I think, came to realize that that we have a powerful voice to be an advocate and a cheerleader, and to share the voices of our grantees and to share the voices of East Central Indiana and improve our reputation as a community, and to really show the state of Indiana and to show the community that really great things are happening in East Central Indiana. And so we think Judd came in 20 years ago and recognized that that was the role that we could play. And so we've been really diligent, and you'll see a little bit more when we talk about finding your voice, about what is the voice in the community and what are we trying to accomplish. And so we started to do annual reports, then we built a website, and it was really exciting, and it was not really great, but at least we had one. And over time, we've continued to just make improvements year over year. We then started to do some press releases. So when I first started at the foundation 10 years ago, we did 3 press releases a year, basically. We would do a press release on each of our grant-making cycles, and then we would do a press release about some rapid grants that we made, and that was all. And so we've really worked over time to build that capacity. And then in 2013, as you'll soon see, and just you wait, we did our first Facebook post. And then from there, very slowly added Instagram, LinkedIn, and some videos. And again, it was all like really slow and really intentional. We had to build the case for support. We still sometimes have board members who are like, why do you spend time doing this? And part of that, again, is just continuing to educate folks about the good things that are happening in the community. So we would love to hear a little bit from each of you. So if you can grab your cell phone, and we're going to use Menti. Many of you have probably used Menti. Hopefully, I'm going to let you. Is it giving you a little screen that says, thanks for checking in? Okay, cool, good. So, okay, here we go. First question, what type of entity do you represent? I think we've given you the options of business, nonprofits, schools, government. No government folks today. Brandon, there's an opportunity for you. Awesome. Okay, cool. So we've got a kind of almost even split between nonprofits and businesses. And I'm really glad Susan brings a lot of corporate experience and business experience, so she can talk a little bit as we go about small business as well. And, you know, corporate, how that all factors in as well. All right. Cool. What social media tools do you currently use? This is you in your professional or volunteer capacity. Not as much on the personal side, but no TikToks yet. That's great, because we have nothing to say. Oh, we do have one. Okay, we have nothing to say about TikTok. We don't understand it. We don't know what it is. It is not a tool in our toolbox that we use, nor, I am told, will we ever use. And that is just fine, because there are some things that we just say no to, and that's fine. Maybe someday. Okay, so primarily Facebook. Oh, look at that. Instagram, excellent. We've got some LinkedIn, fantastic. A little bit of X, Twitter. Okay, cool. All right, very good. Did I miss something that you all are using that we've not put up here? Anybody? No? Okay, all right, very good. Okay, there are a few common barriers to expanding communications and storytelling, and I would love to hear which are the biggest barriers for you. So we've got not enough time, a lack of capacity, like nobody kind of owns it. Fear of mistakes or like inciting controversy, getting negative comments. Platform overload is like there's just too many, like we can't keep up with everything. Low engagement, lack of leadership buy-in, lack of content ideas. Not enough time. I'm not surprised at all. Very good. We're going to try to get to some of these barriers today. If you feel like we don't cover them adequately, come and talk to Susan and I afterwards, and we're happy to give you some additional ideas if we aren't able to hit on everything. I'm glad to see that the lack of content ideas isn't ranking as high, because that tells me that there are lots of ideas and that you have ideas. It's just getting them out of your head and onto social media, dealing with the time problem. So hopefully we can talk a little bit about that today as well. Lack of capacity, no one owns it consistently. We're going to talk a little bit about how our team manages that. And low engagement. Isn't that frustrating when you post and no one says anything and you're just posting into the world? Okay. All right. So the key message here is know you're not alone. Right? If you are frustrated and you feel like there are some barriers, there's a whole room full of people that share your frustration and concern. Okay. Are there other barriers to using communications tools that you face? If so, type them in if there's something that we've missed. Maybe we've gotten everything. Okay, let's see. Primary objective differs among team members. It's really good. Okay. Influences that counter message. Not fully understanding how social media works. Very good. Being able to respond. Conversations versus just posting. I will tell you that we generally do not get into conversations, and that's just a decision that we made. Once in a while, if there's something that really, really, really rises up to the top and we feel like we need to address it, we will. But otherwise, we have generally chosen to take the path of letting things work themselves out, probably to the chagrin sometimes of our friends at Intersection. But Judd will tell us, and he often tells us, we're not going to get into a back and forth dialogue. We don't have time for that, and we're just generally not going to get back into a back and forth dialogue. Different sizes of posts on different platforms. Yes, this is an ongoing challenge for us. What we post on Facebook may be too much for putting on Instagram, and then it takes time to edit it, and I need help making posts look better with photos and graphics. Lots of tools to do that. Excellent. Details, organization, numbers person. Very good. How to approach video posting and production. Yes. I will give you a quick piece of advice that we were given about that probably my first year at the foundation, which was that sometimes some video that's grainy and not great is better than no video at all. So maybe sometimes we just put away the perfection and go with what we have, okay? Constant changes in meta advertising and algorithms. This is the bane of Susan's existence. And so sometimes, as Susan will tell you today, we just stop worrying about algorithms and we just do what we do and hope that our posts rise to the top, because sometimes there are things that are not in our control and we just have to let it go. Hesitation about timing and messages and themes on a timely and meaningful basis. Yes. Very good. Okay, so lots that works against us, but lots that can work for us. Excellent. last question for this part, what would you achieve with stronger communications? So lots of choices here, but would you want to increase community awareness? More people know who you are and what you do. Would you want to build trust and credibility, strengthening relationships with your customers or stakeholders? Would you want to attract funding? That's more customers, more donors, more sponsors, more people attending events at your school, strengthening partnerships, attracting customers, recruiting volunteers and finding new customers. Some overlap between categories here, but. Ooh, look at that, showing impact as our leading candidate and increasing community awareness. Very good. Awesome. So again, I hope that you feel at home with friends sitting beside you who are trying to do the same things that you all are doing. Very good. All right. So we have done our data collection, and we now know that we are with the right people in the right room, people who are sharing the same frustrations and joys and opportunities. So with that, I'm going to switch back here. Thank you for giving us some insight into where you are and what you're feeling and thinking about today. So again, I'm going to share with you that for us, and I encourage all of you to think about this not as something that's going to be accomplished tomorrow, but as kind of a longer term journey and something that just takes time and years to build upon. So we internally, when we started our first social media journey in 2013, we handled it all internally with just whoever on our team happened to have something to say. Is that a great strategy? No, it is probably not a great strategy, but that's where we started. And so you will see. And so over time, and I'll skip to the end of the story to come back. We internally manage almost all of our own social media. We do work with Intersection. Intersection helps us with a lot of our storytelling work, and we still manage the day-to-day social media content. All of that happens through our office. Intersection helps us with some posts, and we'll talk about that in a little while. They help us with some of what I call our static posts, but our day-to-day, so I would say probably, Brandon, 90% of what people see is coming directly from the staff in our office. And we don't have anybody on our staff who's like, that's their sole job by any means. Susan is probably the person that spends the most time, 5 minutes a day, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. But generally, that content is all kind of happening within our office. So here's where we started. So here's our first grainy photo that was posted as a cover photo. And then our really soon after that, we posted this really fabulous picture of a trophy. 2 trophies, in fact, and one of them is a traveling trophy. I don't even know what that means. And one of them was an individual trophy. So so at least we did something. But this is not like, what is the Excellence in Teaching Award traveling trophy? I don't really know, nor would anyone else in the general public. So it was a hearty effort. We're going to show you kind of a before and after. Our next initial post, there's Bob Ball. Does everyone know Bob Ball? Bob Ball is a wonderful guy. So here's Bob Ball at a BBF reception. I don't really know what kind of reception it was, but I'm glad Bob was there. And there's a nice picture of our president and CEO smiling beside Bob, but this lacks any kind of context, right? So like basic 101 is how do we provide context for the daily activities? And people are interested, no matter where you are, I think people are interested in what you do, but you've got to provide them some like real clear context. Here are 2 of our program officers kind of trying to smile, but standing in their very fancy suits in front of the Indiana State Museum. We have not identified who they are or what they're doing, but there they are. Okay, so again, not really great because again, we've not provided like any kind of context, but at least we see them kind of out and about. So then we get a little bit better. Okay, so here we are. This is the old Camp Red Wing, which was a Boy Scout property. And we've identified that one of our board members and a program officer attended the Camper for a Day on June 19th, 2013. I'm glad we've solidified the date there. We've provided a little context, like Red Wing sits on 134 acres near Muncie's south side. So that's cool. But if we were doing this post today, we would clearly link to, and maybe this was before the days of the internet on Facebook where you could actually link to the post of where you are. And we would provide a picture of our staff alongside the folks at Camp Red Wing to provide some context. One of the things that's really important to us, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes when we talk about finding your voice, is for us, one of our values as an entity is feeling friendly and approachable. These pictures back here don't necessarily feel friendly and approachable. We're starting to get there, but you'll see over time. Now we've got Judd Fisher playing a trumpet, so we're making some improvements here. But one of the goals that we have really worked hard, and you'll see that reflected now in our social media, is being friendly and approachable. So again, really thinking about what do you want to be perceived at? What do you want your company to be perceived as? What do you want your organization to be perceived as? I would encourage you, people are really interested in seeing your day-to-day activity. They're interested in seeing the product that you're producing being used or being produced. They're interested in seeing the behind the scenes work of what you do. So Julie's over at the senior center, Julie snaps a photo hey, we're playing bingo today. That's awesome. That's the kind of stuff people need to see on a consistent and regular basis. So that again, you've got literally millions of messages that are going into people's phones that they're hearing, visually seeing all day long. How do you stand out? One of the ways that you do that is by providing good content, not junk content, but good visual content. So where we are today, and Susan, we have a running joke in our office that Judd has said that we can spend 5 minutes a day on social media. And so this is, some days we probably do limit it to 5 minutes. Some days are probably more, but you could get lost in a rabbit hole, right? You could do this all day with absolutely nothing to show for it at the end of the day without, having some really clear goals in mind. And so one of the practical tips, and would encourage you to think about what is a reasonable amount of time to be spending on this in a regular day. We'll talk about some strategies for how you might balance that over time. But again, starting with something reasonable. So here are a couple of posts that we've done recently. There's a post on Little Red Door and a post on Urban Light. We did a big story on Urban Light. You see Joy Rediger here talking with some neighbors. You see folks that are cutting a ribbon. One of the biggest lessons that we've learned about social media is that people like to see people they know. A picture that just this picture, if we just post this picture alone, that will not garner any interest. But if we have a picture with folks who people know, that is where you get likes. That's where you get shares. That's where you get content that actually gets distributed. So there's folks that all of you know in this picture. It's hard to see. But again, the best posts for us that also perform really well are when we have our team and our staff out in the community doing things that look and feel interesting. And so here you have our award-winning canoe team. Yes, we've won many awards. And there may not have been many people competing against us, but we did win. So alas. So here we are. And we've also, and you'll see, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, we create the story that we want to tell about the perceptions that we want people to have. And so here we've said, Delaware County is becoming the place to be for river adventures. You'll hear us talk a lot about the White River. We love the White River. The folks at Destination Muncie have done a really good job of helping to promote the White River. But that messaging is consistent across all of our platforms, and you hear that same messaging all the time. But again, people want to see people that they know. Here's a great example where previously, this is one of our board members at Minnetrista looking through some of the artifacts. And so we talk about, here's an opportunity for us to talk about our board and explain what our board is, because it feels very mysterious. People are like, who's on your board? What do they actually do? So here's an opportunity for people to see someone on our board at one of our grantees. And so we've said earlier this month, Ball Brothers Foundation's board, comprised of dedicated third and fourth generation Ball family members, gathered in Muncie for our spring board meeting. And then we talked a little bit about what they did while they were in town. This is much better than that previous post where we talked about a board member visiting Camp Red Wing, but had no picture of a board member visiting Camp Red Wing. Again, like personalizing your posts and making them feel approachable to the folks that you're working with. Here's another victory. Remember that weird trophy that we had the picture of with no context? Okay, that is not a particularly helpful post. Like, we've posted this weird picture of a trophy. We have not explained what the Excellence in Teaching Award is. So here is a great Instagram post of one of the finalists this past year for our Excellence in Teaching Award. Many of you probably know Danielle Phelps from Burris. And here she is with like a super vibrant picture. We talk a little bit later in the post about what our Excellence in Teaching Award is, rather than just showing a trophy sitting on a desk with a golden frame behind it. But here's a bright, vibrant picture that as you're scrolling through your Instagram feed is gonna catch your attention. And so you can see here, again, like there's the difference in what kind of we're trying to accomplish. From a LinkedIn perspective, we have used that a lot more lately to kind of understanding who the audiences are. And so we know that from LinkedIn perspective, the audience there is going to be a more professional audience. And Susan's going to share a little bit more with you about, as you pick your tools and which tools you might choose to use, what LinkedIn is best for. But you can see we use our LinkedIn for sort of more long form content. We can explain things in a deeper, bigger way. And we have more links to things. Instagram is not link friendly at all. And so LinkedIn and Facebook are where a lot of our posts with links live. And again, we're not gonna just crowd our LinkedIn with giant numbers of pictures. We're gonna choose one or two really good pictures that highlight kind of what we're talking about. So those are some examples of kind of where we started and how far we've come. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Susan to talk a little bit again about that toolbox and how we choose which tool and which tools are good for what.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so that's a bit of a rundown of how we are approaching this, but I just want to ask the question, why bother with social media at all? Because, I mean, we're all hard at work. We all have our mission to do. So is this truly helping us? And this is where I want us to transition our thoughts from looking at social media as a marketing tool into more of a relationship builder. So, recapping Facebook. This is where the power of authentic storytelling shines the most. As Jenna noted, this is where we tell a little bit longer story. We still have the photos and the images that are very important, that are capturing people's attention. But versus the Instagram, this is where we can tell a little bit longer story and maybe share a few more words versus the pictures, and compared to Instagram, which is more picture-friendly, less words. Statistically, 54.9% of Facebook users are above the age of 35, which in some cases, forgive me, might translate to a longer attention span. Okay, so again, this is your storytelling opportunity. You can be a little bit more text heavy. Here we have examples of a few of our grantees where highlighting their connections, highlighting other grantees within. So this is Muncie Land Bank, telling who they are, what they do, and mentioning the Heart of Indiana United Way. That's always an additional way to get attention, get more eyes, because you're tagging those other followers in and more people can see it. And the same goes with Mitchell Early Childhood Family Center, and then we've got the hashtags. Hashtagging, we all understand, I think, where that comes from, but that's, again, linking more ways for people to search the internet and find more stories about you and what you are sharing. Okay, so just to recap here, no other social media presence. This is the place you want to be. You're going to get more attention using Facebook than maybe others. If your time constraints limit you to one platform, this is the one that we recommend. You've got your audience age, 20 to 30 minute weekly time commitment. I think that's fair. And then the reasons that we love it, showing off everyone, day in a life features, and behind the scenes. I actually just took a note as Jenna was talking about a day in a life opportunity. Constantly, the ideas are coming up in the head. You've got to jot it all down, keep it. I'll go back to the office. I will log that on my document for something for us to do in the future. And then daily work, grounding message of who we are and what we do. Versus Instagram, again, very photo heavy, something that's going to capture the attention, less words. The Instagram, statistically, 32% of Instagram users are between the ages of 25 and 34. And overall, more than 55% of Instagram users are below the age of 45. Less attention span, could be argued. Simple photos or short videos to show the impact of ways that press releases cannot. Jenna also talked about how we use press releases. Again, Instagram is not link friendly. And when she made that comment, I don't know how much you're on Instagram or try to share more in-depth stories, but when we try to share a link to our website on the Instagram platform compared to the Facebook platform, it won't link as well. There's always a little bit of a glitch in the system. So when we want to share those press releases, the one-pagers, anything that we have on our website, again, Facebook is the place to go, but then you can also use your LinkedIn and other platforms for that. So working through here, on the fly posting with defined time commitments, and the reasons we love it. The video content via stories. This is Jenna's area of expertise. When she's out visiting with our grantees, she's very good about taking just a quick video, spanning the area that we are in, catching a couple of our fellow team members, talking with the grantees, showing the grantee space, and then we pop that up into a story, runs for 24 hours, kind of gets a little bit more attention and drives more people to the page. And then the visuals that show off the vibrancy. Touching back on LinkedIn, again, a great way to show an article with a link. It helps us out tremendously. We can hashtag other organizations, mention other people that can be highlighted, and then people can click further and go deeper and deeper into the stories. This is always more of our professional platform versus the fun stuff. We still do fun stuff, but it's a little bit more of a professional audience.
And I would say we only post on LinkedIn maybe 2 or 3 times a month. The other platforms we're posting like at least 2 to 3 times a week. And this is, again, like we don't want to clutter up the LinkedIn feed with a bunch of stuff. We're pretty particular about what gets posted on LinkedIn.
And we rely on Intersection a lot to help us with our LinkedIn posts. YouTube and Vimeo, this is an area for us to do even better in. But as Jenna noted, even showing just a not so fabulous video versus having nothing out there is important. So we do use these channels. A lot of times you'll see Judd Fisher speaking about something. That's typically the content of video that we want to share. It's a way for him to be highlighted as the general, like he's the person that we want people to identify the foundation with. And yeah, significant time commitment. Again, this is a reason why we don't use it quite as much, but we always have partnerships that help us with video. And it needs to be concise, explain your work, explain a special project. The library of videos to pull from is very helpful. So as we are speaking over this beautiful 100-year history, we will pull videos, I hope, in 20 years, 40 years, 50 years that will show where we have come this far. So it's a great way to keep a nice library of the work that you are doing.
Oh, can we go back to that real quick? Do you all remember, we've put a couple screenshots here from a couple of nonprofits in the community. Do you all remember this ELF video that Muncie's? Okay, see, everybody remembers it because it was so good and so funny. That is the most brilliant marketing tactic, right, that Muncie Civic could have possibly done. And again, like it lives on, if you go to Muncie Civic's Vimeo or I think theirs is on YouTube. But if you go to their page, like it lives there forever. And so people can always go back and see that. They can create links to it that they can continue to use as like promotional videos of the good work that Muncie Civic does. The same for Muncie Habitat. Like how many of you went to this was when they cut the ribbon on the 300th house. Did anyone go to that? Okay, a couple of you did. The rest of us didn't, but the rest of us can relive that experience, right, by going to the video. We can send that. We're taking our board on a Habitat tour in a couple of weeks. Our whole board is coming from out of town, and we're going to kind of do a tour with Habitat. So before they come, we can send them the link to that video that shows that 300th house being built. So again, that's where that content, even though you've posted it once, it continues to live and people can continue to use it. So I'm thinking, if you're a school, we have a school PTO group back here. So if they create a video of a school PTO event from this year, next year when they're promoting the same event, they can send a link to, post a link like, remember how much fun we had last year at whatever event. And people see that visually and are attracted to that. So yeah, just wanted to make a quick comment on those two. If you haven't seen the ELF video, you really need to. Like this will just make your day. If you're having a bad day, go watch that video because they do such a good job of using Muncie too. Like again, that's that perception of place and creating excitement around. So anyway, thanks.
Excellent. Okay, so there's so much to choose from, right? We've mentioned all of these platforms and ways that you can utilize these platforms to share your stories and do your storytelling. It can get overwhelming, and ultimately we're all still working with the same constraints. It's either a lack of staff in our office, a lack of time, despite the 5-minute rule, or just the capacity to be able to do this. So I think everything goes back to the question, why? That's a great question to ask of ourselves, both professionally and personally, just all the time throughout the day. Why am I doing the things that I'm doing? So why are you choosing to share your stories on social media? Tyler Ewing. I'm going to pick on you. So as the marketing director of Westminster Village, is that correct? Yes. Okay. Why do you choose social media? Why is social media important to you as the marketing director of Westminster Village?
So we use it for brand awareness and make sure that people know who we are and what we do, and making, showing the story of a resident moving in, going through that process, showing how much, it can be a little bit overwhelming, but then also the outcome of them and getting settled into our community, loving living there, enjoying the activities that we have and the outings that we go on and everything else, and showing how it is an adventure when they move in. So in taking that next step in their life and trying to make it a full circle story.
Okay, excellent.
Yes.
Okay, so why do you, Tyler Ewing, use social media as Tyler Ewing?
Probably for the reason to be able to, like I just posted about my son's soccer senior day and senior pictures, to let friends and family know what's going on in your life, keep them aware of different events that are going on and how moments that you're having with your kids and within your family on a more personal level.
Okay. So that's your personal reason. And what we want to do is intertwine these stories. Because what you shared was, even through Westminster Village, you touched on personal intentional stories that you want to share for your business. And then we also have our personal intentional stories that we want to share as people. And the thing to remember about all of this social media is when you have people doing this during the course of the day, they're seeing you both personally and professionally. And you want to be able to capture that in both aspects. Now, I'm not giving you permission to surf social media during the workday. But even myself, like when I'm getting ready to go and post hours, inevitably I'll go through there and kind of see what's happening. And it's very easy for me to go over to that personal side and see what other people are doing personally, but then bring it back to the professional side. So those two things go together. So again, shifting that mindset from using social media just as a marketing tool, just to sell your business or whatever it is you're doing, to wanting to connect with people intentionally and do more of that storytelling. Remember that when your followers are following you, ask your question, why? Why are your followers following you professionally? So is it to get to know more about your organization and your story? Is it a way for them to keep up with what's happening in the community? Is it an example of a way for them to see the who's who and connect with those people? Because it's very easy. You can go on to Ball Brothers Foundation social media pages and then click to see who has liked, or you see on there who has liked or who is following. And then you have a tendency to go and then you look to see what they're following, and and that rabbit hole just keeps getting deeper and deeper. And it even could be FOMO. Like we feel we're going to miss out on something. I've got to keep up with these channels because I don't want to miss out on something that's happening in the community. So ask yourself, why are these followers following me? Look at who's following you and then check out who they follow. And you can kind of put those chain links together, and that will help you with the information that you are sharing on your page. You want to bring that together. Connect with them intentionally and personally and intimately. What is better than to connect with someone intimately and personally than handwritten notes, something that is special just for them? So even if we have all of this social media, all of our tools, this sometimes is an even better way for us to connect with the people that we work with. Intentionally, personally, sharing stories, sharing notes. This is the stuff that's going to leave the biggest impact with your people, with your constituents, with your customers, with anyone. That special level of service where you're connecting with them personally. That's going to leave a lasting impression, maybe more than anything else. As Jenna says, handwritten notes for the win.
It's
always.
True. We spend a lot of time on social media, but we also spend a lot of time with that more personal connection, because there's also, and I would encourage, especially those of you who are in the business world, it's very easy to get lost in all of this stuff and to get lost in trying to figure out the algorithm. But there is something that will make you distinctly stand out with those personal letters or those personal handwritten notes. Yep.
Yes. Okay. So now we will talk about, Jenna, I'm going to throw this back to you.
Awesome. So part of finding your voice is knowing who you are and what you do and what you don't do. And so we've shared a few things here that are just sort of ground rules internally for us. This may not work for you and it may work for you. But just so that you kind of have a sense of, again, when there's a team of people that might be helping, whether you have a group of people that are submitting and contributing content, or whether you're going it alone. These are some of the things internally that we talk a lot about. We include photos to engage the readers and use captions to say who's who. Really important, again, for identifying who's who. Helps us be more recognizable and shows us out and about. We always provide context for posts that explains why we made a grant, how it connects to a bigger thing that we're working on. As a general rule, we don't post pictures with the faces of kids that are under 18 unless we have permission from the organization. That's, again, just something internally that we've kind of made a determination to do or not do. One of these really important points is that we very rarely promote events or share other people's content. So that is a rabbit hole. Like if we start going down that, we can never come back. Because if we post this event, then we get, why didn't you post this event? Why didn't you do this? Or why? And if the same as in terms of sharing other people's content. It's just a kind of standard that we've put across the board because it becomes very difficult to manage all of that in our 5 minutes a day. But it also dilutes, to some degree, it also dilutes our voice. And so we have what we're trying to accomplish. And so we want to share the voice of our grantees, and we want to promote what they're doing and be an advocate and a cheerleader. But kind of controlling that message internally and having it come from the foundation, we've found works better for us. We work to keep posts relatively short. This is an area that we have struggled with and we continue to struggle with, and we will admit that. We will stand here and admit that it's really easy to write something long and it's really hard to write something short and concise. And so would encourage you to continue to work on that with us. We also, in terms of finding our voice, we spend a lot of time thinking about who we are and who we aren't. And this is something that we've worked a lot with our board on. And we have a communications committee of our board that kind of provides like kind of big picture guidance. And they have been really clear with us, and we continue to live this out every day, that we are not the hero of the story, as we talked about before. The hero of the story is our grantees. And that we are not the Tourism and Visitors Bureau. That is the job of Destination Muncie. So we can come alongside them and we can use posts that promote promote Muncie, promote East Central Indiana, but we know who we are and we know who we aren't. What we are is a cheerleader and an advocate. What we are is friendly and approachable. So part of this is who are you and who are you not? And so, if you are a school PTO, you are not the school, you're not the voice of the school. If you're the Visitors Bureau, you are the Visitors Bureau for all of Delaware County. If you are, just knowing who you are and then also knowing who you aren't and making sure that your posts are consistent to that point. What we've determined then, what our voice is today, and would encourage you to think about what your voice is too. This is like a 4-point checklist for us whenever we post something. Is it community-centered? Is it rooted in East Central Indiana? Does it identify people and places that show vibrancy? Is it friendly and approachable? Does it have a warm and relatively casual tone? For us, that's really important because we're trying to, after many years of feeling like nobody knew what we were or what we did, that's the approach that we're trying to take. So we run all of that through that filter. Is it inspirational and forward-looking? Is it focused on progress and community vitality? And is it grounded in storytelling and bringing work to life? Bottom line, everything that we post is really intentional, and would encourage you to do the same thing. Be really intentional about everything that you post as well. Susan's going to run through the organizing content because we're running low on time, and we want to make sure we have lots of time for questions.
Okay, so the pressure is to be everywhere all the time and perfectly, and we need to let that go. Just let it go because it's not going to be achieved. Perfection is not achievable. Make a game plan as a team. Some of the things that we've mentioned here today, take it back to your teams and make a plan so that you guys, for the most part, can try to get on the same page. That you have that checklist that she just went through of how we go about, make up your 4 bullets of what you want your message to be as a team so that you can stay on track and be concise with that. Use the tools. So we use a content calendar. This is a little bit of a help with the work that we do with Intersection, but even internally, we as a team for the BBF team typically post our posts on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Not every Monday, Wednesday, Friday perfectly consistently, but that is typically the routine. And then our static content comes from the Intersection team on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Again, not every single Tuesday and Thursday. And we also use the tool Meta Business, which is nice because you can hit both channels, Facebook and Instagram, at the same time. But again, when we go over to that Instagram channel, we want to lessen it down. We want to have less words. Sometimes we are consistent in doing that, where we'll go over there and kind of tweak it a little bit more. This is a great time when AI tools come in handy, and I'll touch on that in just a second. But again, just making sure that we're sharing that day-to-day content from ourselves, and then Jenna shares the videos and the reels on the Instagram, and then the more static things are coming from Intersection. So this is an example of how Intersection helps us with our organizing. We meet with them monthly to kind of talk about what we are doing in our office, different things, our press releases, one-pagers, all of this. And they will come back with a schedule of postings. This is an example of where we were talking about the same subject, which was a big initiative of ours, but we needed to chunk it out into a few days because there's so much story to tell. And this is nice when we can hit with this leading up to an event. It helps build knowledge of our followers to say, oh, this is why they're doing this because of all of this history. This also helps keep our board members engaged. We will share posts like this very close to our board meeting time where we're going through and sharing something that's an initiative that we want to hit more frequently on the pages.
And these are the more static posts. The other ones we're just doing like whenever we remember. Like if I'm sitting in the driveway, my kids are riding their bikes around, then I might be like creating a post about what I did that day. Again, that's like, those are the static posts that we're scheduling out. And the other ones, I'm just emailing them to Susan whenever I have a minute.
And they're mostly based off grantee visits. So as our program officers are out and about and meeting with all of you and doing different things, they're mindful to snap a photo and say, this is who I met with today and this is why I met with them.
And the same thing would be for you if you're selling a product, if you're creating a product, if you're, the Muncie Mission, you have a meeting with another partner that day, like snap a photo of if Lee snaps a photo with somebody from Minnetrista that's dropping off produce for the vegetable garden or whatever, like that's the kind of thing people see, people that they know, and that's where you get some of that traction. And again, like that doesn't have to be on some month-long schedule that you've created, like today we're going to do this and tomorrow we're going to do that. Like some of that can be really in the moment. But there is some static content that you can create that you can sit down and do, that you can schedule out, a month or 2 months in advance.
And another practice that we have as a team and that we would recommend with every team, we all work together on this. Like Jenna's saying, she's sitting in the driveway waiting, for kids to come out from school and she'll send me something. I might catch a spelling error. I might catch, some editing or something that needs to be done in there. We as a team never post anything without other eyes seeing it. And we often go back to that list. Is this happening in that post? Is there something that needs to be added? A lot of times they're out visiting with the grantees. I don't know what the discussion was or maybe what's happening that's important at that moment. So they have to provide me with that information. Then I can go back and do a proper posting. So we work together as a team, which is really important. Organization. Again, so now we've got all these ideas floating through our heads. We've got all these pictures we've taken. What do we do with it? Every team's going to figure out their own way, but we just recommend you find some tools to do it because you can get overwhelmed very quickly. We have all of ours in a shared drive on our internal team on the computers. We go in by month, by year, and then each of these folders will open up and it might say Habitat for Humanity. It might say Muncie Mission. And then we go into those folders and we find those pictures. And everyone's responsible for taking their own photos and loading them into this tool that we use consistently to help keep us. Eventually we'll have to organize it again so that in 20 years, remember that time we went to Muncie Mission, but you can't remember that it was 2025 in June. So we'll have to go a little bit deeper on that. So when I had mentioned the AI, a great way to use AI, if that is something that you are using, type up your post, type in all your details, and then ask AI to make it more concise. It'll just chunk out the most important things for you and say, take this paragraph and please give me 3 sentences that I can use on social media. And it will do it for you. It's a great way to kind of go between your Facebook and your Instagram, quick and easy. But again, check it. Have other people check it because AI is not always correct. Okay, so just going over it again, making it manageable. Set a daily time limit or batch schedule. Try to stick to it. If you are ultimately the person that is responsible for getting this up, make sure you're letting your team know when you are working on this and ask them to respect that time so that you can stay focused and get that done. Choose only 1 or 2 tools. We've given you a lot of information today, but we're going to recommend you just go with a couple that you can do well. And then we talked about the cricket phases. Don't get discouraged when you're not seeing a whole bunch of posts taking off. Again, the Meta Business Helper app that we use, that planner, it will show times that maybe your followers are most active on your page. So take those recommendations, pay attention to it yourself. Why did this post maybe not do as well? Well, we didn't have anybody from our team in the photo. We didn't have a super recognizable person in the photo. It's a little grainy, it's a little off focus, it's a little too pulled back. Just analyze it a little bit. Don't spend crazy amounts of time doing it because you can make yourself go crazy. But just analyze that a little bit. Try different times of the day. Sometimes we post early in the morning. Sometimes I post on that lunch hour thinking, hey, maybe everybody's sitting on their phones at the lunch hour. So we'll post those. But just take a little measure, keep notes of that, and then move forward with a plan. And then making it the team effort. Simple processes, make it super easy for everybody to submit the content to you. There was a time where everybody was emailing it in, and then they were also sending the pictures in the email, and then that just caused me to take the pictures from the email and then go put them into the folder, or people will text them in, and then I gotta take them off the phone, and then if you can ask everybody just to put it into that shared drive, it makes the process so much easier. Work smarter, not harder.
Susan, can we go back? One quick point is that we do have final post authority within our organization. So if you're a single office and you're just doing this on your own, that's great. But so everything, as Susan mentioned before, has to go to at least one other team member before it gets posted to check for tone and content. And then Susan is on our team internally in the office. She's the only one that posts, that does the final post once it's ready to go, so that again you don't have dueling posts or something that hasn't gotten run through, because it's just really easy to miss something, whether it's grammatical or whether it's tone or whether it's something that can be misinterpreted. It's really easy. So just having that final kind of post authority is really important from our perspective.
Okay. Reusing content is not a problem. This is something that, a lot of times people think it's got to be fresh and it's got to be new and I can't tell the same story twice. You maybe wouldn't use the exact same thing twice, but when you need content like that, you can visit the same grantee over and tell a little bit different story. You can go make a connection with a customer or talk about the same product in a different way. So definitely don't feel like it has to be brand new, fresh every time, because also the 500 thousands of followers that you have, not everybody saw the same post. So just feel like, if you can use that. Again, AI, creating templates for consistent look and feel, that's really good advice. We've all been on those Instagram pages where all the color is the same, the font is the same. There's just kind of that look to the entire page. Whether or not that's something you want to do as a business or as a service or whatever, maybe if it's a school, you've always got the same colors in the background of your photos or something, just to create something that tells you what page you're looking at. And then, as we mentioned, the story bank. I've already jotted something down here today that I will take back to the office for us to work on a post in the future. You're gonna be out and about. You're gonna see what other people are posting and think, wow, we could do something very similar as they are doing with this product or this service or whatever it is that we're talking about. And that's the best form of flattery, right? You can just kind of borrow from somebody else. And
cool. So we have, I think, a couple more survey questions, and then we'll get you your own questions answered and on with the rest of your day. So let's go back here. Cool. So with all that being said, what is one story or photo or highlight that you could share via socials this week? Now that your juices are flowing. Surely you've been somewhere, you've seen something, you have a product that you can share, you have a picture with somebody of something, or you've got a meeting coming up that might be fun. Oh, Intersessions, yay. Behind the scenes work, love that. People love to see things behind the scenes. Even though it is the world that you live in every day, I promise you that people are curious about what happens and how things work, and kind of what goes on behind the scenes. So, previous conference photos to promote an upcoming conference, love that. A book giveaway, awesome. A day in the life. Cool. And when we do those day in the life, we often start them with like a video of one of our staff members being like, today we're going to do these 3 things. Come and follow along with us. And so then we do like a series of videos and a series of pictures that are we do it like 3 or 4 times during the day. And it's just kind of fun. Like you don't have to spend hours and hours curating that kind of content. Just a couple of photos will do, or a couple of kind of little posts. I taught a class last week in Toronto. I can share a picture and describe the event. That's awesome. Love that. That's so cool.
You know, we talked about that time, I think it was just last year. We didn't have a whole lot planned to share, and I literally walked downtown and took architecture photos of different locations in downtown Muncie, and we were shocked because all of a sudden a whole bunch of people were liking it and then commenting on different things, and it was just a chance to go through our town and maybe see something in a different way, in a different light. We weren't talking about work that we had done necessarily, but it was about our community and, you know, encouraging people, take a look around downtown Muncie. It's a beautiful place.
Right.
So.
And we tied it back to the power of place, about place making and why we love Muncie. And so, so that's awesome. Thank you all. Cool.
Yeah, a big round of applause for Jenna.